Hi guys, this is gsndon.com and I'm here with the review of the Sony Xperia XZ, the fall flagship from Sony. And this is a handset that was unveiled at IFA 2016, focused on its camera aspect. It's a high-end phone as far as the specs are concerned, but it doesn't go high-end all the way. For example, it only has 3 GB of RAM. You can find it in USA at $700 on Amazon, and it can be considered a slightly bigger Xperia X performance with the same CPU, Full HD screen, but 0.2 inch bigger in diagonal and with a better camera. It's available in blue, this nifty shade of blue, black and platinum. It was launched in October all over the world, so a couple of days ago, and once again it's called the Xperia XZ. Now, as far as design is concerned, it's different than any other flagship on the market right now. In 2016, it reminds me a bit of the Nokia N9 as far as the form factor goes. So it gets a flat top and flat bottom with slightly rounded edges, and that reminds me of the N9. We also have a 8.1mm thickness here, although it seems thicker when you first see it. So 8.1mm waistline and 161 grams in weight, while the Galaxy S7, for example, is 0.2mm slimmer and about 9 grams lighter. Anyway, it weighs as much as the HTC 10. It feels rather big because it's a very long phone on account of its big edges at the bottom and at the top, as you can see. Also, the screen edges are a bit bigger than people want nowadays. It's a 5.2 incher with a great grip, a comfy power button, not so comfy volume buttons placed a bit low for my preference, and since it's a big phone, it's kind of hard to use with a single hand if you have big or small hands. Anyways, the build is solid, and this is quite a unique phone because it's made of an Alkaleido material. It's basically a special type of metal, sort of an aluminum relative. It has a matte back covered with something that feels like plastic. Well, it's not, it's still metal. It gets smudged easily, and it also has IP68 certification for dust and water resilience. Sony is doing its own thing, that's for sure. Some people may not like this phone, some people may adore the phone. Anyways, it's original, that's the idea here, and interesting design wise. Now, on the display front, let's go to the front side. It's a 5.2 incher Full HD panel, IPS LCD with quite big bezels. It uses the usual lingo of marketing like triluminous, X-Reality, and it has Gorilla Glass 4 protection. Now, for the video player, we get something called video with a very complex identity and featuring a lot of sub modes and options like popular, on air, movie, TV series, topics, documentary, sports. It integrates all sorts of TV guides and associated online services, as well as YouTube highlights, believe it or not. We have a variety of options here, as you can see: topics, program guide, mobile device, home network, and some settings included: general settings, country, region, nickname, channel settings, and TV provider, and all that. If you decide to play a video, we also get quite a few options here. So we have audio setting, a variety of them: DSEE, Clear Audio Plus, sound effects, and a dynamic normalizer, as well as we got you already saw the audio settings. Then we have the display settings, which we will cover later on. Now let's go to the actual playback and see what the phone has to offer. So the experience here, we are offered pretty deep blacks for an IPS LCD. The colors are clearly oversaturated, the screen is bright, contrast is good, and we have wide view angles, as you can well see for yourself. Now it's time to see what other aspects this screen provides, and let me go here. So the pixels are arranged in a RGB stripes setup, as you can see, with this interesting rhomboid form factor here, which may or may not be caused by the screen's protection. Anyways, RGB stripes, that's the setup. Now, as far as the brightness goes, we use the lux meter and measure the top value of 611 lux units, but it's not a uniform one because it achieves 573 lux in another area and 603 lux in another area, but the core is the maximum value, 611 lux. Quite good and superior to the iPhone 6s Plus and Xiaomi Mi 5, slightly inferior to the OnePlus 3 and Galaxy S6 Edge Plus when using that special sun slider at the top. We also have, as you saw before, a ton, and I do mean a ton, of settings related to the display. So brightness level, adaptive brightness, sleep, smart backlight control, basically keeping the screen on as long as you look at it. Then image enhancement, that includes X reality for mobile with more natural colors and super vivid mode with less natural colors, basically oversaturated. White balance with 3 sliders here for RGB, font size, cover selection with special options depending on the cover you're using, system icons, daydream, and glove mode plus various presses of buttons. Okay, it's a good screen. Nothing to object here, excellent brightness, but it's a bit oversaturated. If you want to discuss raw power, we're going to have to resort to the CPU-Z. We're running on a Qualcomm Snapdragon 820 CPU quad-core unit, accompanied by the Adreno 530 GPU, 3GB of RAM, 32GB of storage for the single SIM model, 64GB for the dual SIM model, and a micro SD card slot. There is no lag, the interface is quite fluid, although if you have many downloads in the background and stuff installing, opening up apps seems to take a bit longer than you'd want to. The games run okay, including our usual benchmark game, which is Riptide GP Renegade. Here it is. We've played Riptide GP2 for many years, and we've moved to the latest version to test the most hardcore phones with the most hardcore CPUs and GPUs. Okay, quick race, Fountain Park, we're pros, and here we go. Turning down the volume a bit. You can take the graphics all the way up to ultra level, there's no problem. We have the best CPU on mainstream phones right now. Of course, there are some phones with Snapdragon 821, but not many of them. And when this model was launched, I'm guessing you couldn't buy one from the store yet. Okay, so the water is nicely rendered. All the frames are okay, there is no frame rate drop. Very nice lighting, nice effects, responsive controls, so only praise for the graphics and gaming here. We didn't only do gaming, we also did benchmarks, so let's see how that went. Okay, so screenshots, and as usual we started off with Quadrant. And in Quadrant we were able to score above the LG G5 and Xiaomi Mi 5 with similar specs compared to this model, some of them with superior RAM, and we beat them. In Antutu, a very good score, as you can well see. We beat the HTC 10 and Galaxy S7, quite surprising, while in Geekbench 3, here are the scores, we surpassed the Galaxy S7 Edge in the single core test and the OnePlus 3 in the multi-core test, yet another good performance seeing how the OnePlus 3 has 6GB of RAM. In 3D Mark Ice Storm Unlimited, we placed around the 5th place, which is not bad, and in the end I'm happy with the performance here, especially for such little RAM, let's say. Now, the temperature test was also okay. We achieved 37.8 degrees Celsius after running Riptide GP Renegade, so no overheating, and we achieved 38.2 degrees Celsius after running the intensive GFX Bench benchmark. Now we go to the battery section. We're getting here a 2900 mAh unit, lithium ion with adaptive charging that adapts to your charging patterns. It learns your habits basically. Now we tested the video playback time, and let's see what we achieved. Okay, so here we go. We got up to 9 hours and 1 minute here, which sounds moderately impressive, I have to say. This result makes us surpass the Nexus 6P and LG G4, but has us scoring below the LG V10 and the HTC 10. We also did a PC Mark test that simulates continuous usage, and boy, we were disappointed. 4 hours 29 minutes, which is very weak. Keep in mind that the Huawei Nova Plus, which is a mid-ranger, scored 9 hours. We even scored below the disappointing Amazon Fire Phone and 2 minutes below the disappointing Huawei P9, but we only beat the Huawei Under 6 model, so this one needs more work. When it comes to continuous usage, the phone is dropping percentage like there's no tomorrow. Charging is a bit on the long side for current standards, 2 hours 42 minutes, it's longish. It's superior to the Huawei P8 but inferior to the Nexus 5X. Well, at least there are many options to play with here. Related to the battery, we got here the famous stamina mode that can auto start at a certain level, and it has options like battery time preferred, battery balance power saving, and device performance preferred. All of them restricted the CPU and connectivity and other features in one way or another. Ultra stamina mode restricts all activities a lot, restricts the Wi-Fi and mobile data, and only offers access to this basic list of features and apps. And finally, battery care, which increases the lifespan of the battery, and it detects when you leave the phone to charge, for example during the night, and it makes it slow down the charging so the battery will not get too used up. In the end, I feel that the battery performance is underwhelming because of the continuous usage time we had in our test. Now, multimedia. We get dual front speakers here, one speaker here and one speaker here. These are stereo speakers. We didn't get headphones bundled with the Xperia XZ, although some carriers bundle that cool set of over-the-air headphones we showed in the unboxing. Anyway, we can rely on Play Music or our very own music app with a huge amount of options related to the way you can get your content, and also related to the settings and options, which let's try and find here. So settings, audio settings, there's this one that upgrades compressed music, clear audio plus, a ton of effects, got an equalizer with 5 custom channels, surround for the headphones, S-Force from surround, quite a lot of them and a lot to tweak, but in the end not many of them will actually modify the experience, maybe those related to surround, and that's it. There's also one that affects microphone sensitivity apparently, so that's interesting. Okay, now the actual experience goes something like this. As you just saw, we lost a few decibels when we put the phone on a flat surface. Anyways, got a loud sound, a very good bass. The phone vibrates a lot. This back side, it totally vibrates when you're listening to music. The sound is crisp and I like the way the high notes are heard. And I also like the simulation of surround we get here. But there's pretty serious muffling. Now, speaking of muffling and things like that, we also did some tests with our very own decibel meter and achieved 80.4 decibels at the front of the phone. Not hugely impressive, I have to say, while at the back with the muffling 69.5, one of the lowest ever. At least the maximum result beats the Sony Xperia Z5 Premium from last year. We also beat the LG V10 but scored below the Moto G4 and the Huawei P8. It's a good sound but not very loud, as the decibel meter has showed us, and by the way, we don't have headphones bundled here in case you're wondering, and when we bundled them the sound was pretty much okay but not more than that. Now we go to the camera, probably the core aspect of the phone. There's a 23 megapixel shooter here with triple image sensing. It has a huge sensor that measures about half of an inch or so, and 24mm wide G lens, 5x clear image zoom, f2.0 aperture, laser focus, and a special RGB-CIR sensor that measures visible colors. Very fast capture, 0.5 seconds, and that's the back camera, 23 megapixels. It's the basic sensor that was on the previous two models, but in an upgraded fashion. We have a 13 megapixel shooter here for the selfies with 22mm wide angle lens. Now the camera app sadly starts up pretty slow. As you can see, we also have a physical camera button here, and the interface is pretty much the same as you've seen on previous Xperia models, like the Z5 and the XA, X Performance and all that models. We have the superior intelligent auto mode here, better said superior auto, that feels if you're taking a macro, a landscape shot, a portrait or whatever. Now, I said before that the camera starts up slow, focus speed is okay, both when you're focusing manually or when you're focusing automatically. The zoom is quite fluid, goes up to a pretty impressive 8x, and picture taking is very slow. You can see it loading here. That annoying loading motion appears every once in a while, and it shows you that it's taking quite a bit to process the photo. As I said before, the interface is familiar. Some of the options are related to color and brightness, resolution, object tracking, and so forth. Then you can go to the manual mode if you want more control. Here we have ISO, we have HDR, we got object tracking again, there's also metering, white balance, exposure, shutter and focus, plus a series of scenes which are supported in a lower resolution. Here they are, also familiar if you've seen an Xperia phone before. In the video section you can film in Full HD 30 or 60 frames per second. The 4K video is separate, and the stabilization is provided by the Steadyshot tech with intelligent active or standard. If you go to this camera apps area, you can find the augmented reality features, style portrait, 4K video and so forth. And if you're taking selfies, there is a soft skin option. Now, when it comes to the photo gallery, I think this time we have really exaggerated. We have over 300 photographs here, and we are not afraid to flaunt them. We took photos during the day, night, indoors, so a ton of them. So let me start with the daytime shots. Trying to find them here in these huge amounts of pics. Okay, so here we go. Coincidence has it that we have taken these shots in the same areas as the one of the Xperia Z5, and it was a moderately sunny day of October. We have good clarity and also pretty well calibrated colors, realistic colors. The zoom is pretty great, up to 4x, then quality starts to decrease. And this is the zoom, this is the tower of a church. The first zoom in is good, and then things start to become not so impressive. The selfies were a bit underwhelming. As you can see, the background looks nice, but the face is not exactly very clear. That was the first impression, but if we found another place with better sun and better lighting, the selfies became a bit better. Now we also tried a series of close-up shots of flowers. As you can see, we did not focus properly. You have to take a few attempts to really focus right and get the ideal close-up, but when we did, the results were stunning. So let me find one such example. Of course, more zoom shots, and here's one example of close-up of a flower with stunning detail. Of course, a 23 megapixel shooter produces great details, surpassing what the 12 megapixels or 16 megapixels camera can achieve. Other than that, we have a great texture of these monuments and of the church, and there are some dynamic range problems here, especially in the background areas of these shots. Some extra lighting we did not quite dig, and in the end I felt that the texture and quality were quite okay for a flagship level camera. Details are great, close-ups of these statues are fantastic, but once again you have to really focus properly, keep tapping in order to get the ideal result, and expect some disappointment if you don't get the ideal focus. The 20 megapixel shots have a lot of details obviously, but the 8 megapixel ones are not bad also. Everything is very crisp, and I said before, we took a second round of selfies in the sun, and those were actually 3 or 4 times better. I'm not even kidding. So here we go, much better this time, better texture of the skin, and the background is not bad at all. This is one of the highest resolution selfie cameras on flagships this year, and it totally delivers. It actually feels like you're taking a shot using a film photo like the old cameras, which is quite nice. The panorama was surprisingly modest at 4912 over 1080 pixels. This is it. It was pretty clear, but also very curved and modest in resolution. There are some fuzzy trees in the distance when taking some landscape shots, which is curious for such a high resolution camera. And in the end, I was shocked to see by this little monkey picture. We kept zooming in, getting closer and closer, and the details are amazing. You can see the sprites, the dots, and the texture of the wall in an excellent fashion in these captures. And we did that with this graffiti as well. So close-ups are great if you're patient to focus, details are plenty. And speaking of details, we had a cake lying around, and this is the result of said cake in huge detail. So it's a camera for people who like a lot of detail, well calibrated colors, and very good selfies. Also, you should remember that about 1 of 3 macro shots is actually Facebook good, so to say. This camera remains on par with the best, and when I say the best, I mean the Galaxy S7, LG G5, HTC 10, and also the iPhones, plus extra details and great selfies. Those are its attributes. I also noticed that compared to the Xperia Z5, it takes brighter shots and with more realistic colors. Those are the outside captures. We also did some indoor ones, and we happened to have with us a OnePlus 3 and took the shots in parallel. Found these ones inferior to the ones of the OnePlus 3 because of focus problems, lack of clarity, but the colors were pretty good. Now during the night time, let's see what happened. I have quite a few shots here, including some of a square and some of a concert. Those that involve yellow lighting had a bit of a bluish hue at the top and bottom of the image. I have to say that the clarity is good, colors are pretty decent, and the flash is powerful. However, that bluish hue that appears here is a bit annoying. It was also present on the Xperia Z5, and we also have some comparison items here. So those are the shots we've taken with this Xperia phone. There is a blue hue here at the top, blue at the bottom, and it can also be spotted in this capture. And then we move to other phones we've tested. So for example, we took the same shots in the same areas of the same town with the Galaxy S7 Edge this time. Let's see if this is it. Details, and it's the S7 Edge. Indeed, there's no bluish hue here, and clarity is excellent, and there's no blur. If you really zoom in onto this area at the top of the building, you can see some blur here, which did not happen on the Galaxy S7 Edge. It did not happen on the HTC 10, excellent clarity, and it did not happen on the LG G5, although it seems that the HTC 10 was the best when it comes to this part of the low light capture. So in the end, the clarity is pretty okay, some blue hues here and there, good flash, and it may be one of the top 10 cameras when it comes to low light capture, but I've seen much better, and that bluish hue remains a legacy from the Xperia Z5. When it comes to concerts, it seems to handle them pretty well. It's clearly below the OnePlus 3 doing the low light capture, in case you didn't already figure that out. Now, when it comes to the videos, we have a lot of them. Full HD 30 frames per second with 18 megapixel bitrate. One thing to remember, we have an excellent microphone, that's for sure. The 4K clips reach 56 megapixel in bitrate. We get very good exposure, white balance, clarity and colors. This is the Full HD clip, by the way. And let's skip straight to the serious business, like the 4K video. This is it, it's marked 4K very clearly, and it's basically perfect. It's Hollywood good. Excellent colors, exposure, clarity, white balance, focus, contrast, stabilization, whatever. While the 60 frames per second video has a cinematic feel to it, but I am totally in love with the stabilization on this model. It's a 5-axis stabilization, which we tested in multiple fashions. So we activated the standard stabilization, and this clip came out. It's a reasonably good stabilization. I've seen better. There's no focus loss. So far so good. And then the real star of the show appears, the intelligent stabilization, which is really the best feature of the phone. Keep in mind, right now I'm walking on a hallway, then descending some stairs, and it's as if I'm using a special travel mechanism, the ones they use when filming movies. You cannot feel the motion. I'm descending stairs, people, once again, and there is no problem whatsoever. So excellent stabilization, the best I've seen this year, the best I've seen probably ever, and on par with handycams, I have to say that. But when you zoom in, you'll notice some detail loss, and in the end I have to say it's one of the best video taking devices of 2016, smartphone wise. The Xperia Z5 was also very good, so the evolution is nice here, but not exactly huge, simply because the predecessor was also fine. It beats the Galaxy S7, the LG Flagship and the HTC Flagship, simply because of its excellent stabilization. We also did the low light videos, and they were a bit underwhelming. They're a bit yellowish, slightly blurred, some ghosting effects, and some problems. It seems that the camera has a problem with yellow light. The microphone remains excellent, there's some bluish hue in the corners and the top, and strangely, while the yellow light is not handled well, when you're at a concert, things get really good. So let's avoid copyright problems and all that. And the lighting is excellent, details are good, even the zoom quality was nice. So it's more of a concert phone, provided there are no yellow lights here to spoil the fun. And the microphone, I have to say, it's very good. So the camera remains the best in stabilization, top 3 in concerts, very good in selfies, nice in close-ups and details, and well calibrated colors plus the right amount of clarity. Now moving on from the camera, it's time to discuss the browser. The pre-installed one is Chrome, and let's see just how fast gsm1.com loads. As you can see, not the fastest in the world, but the benchmarks like Velamo, SunSpider and the works are quite good. Now this is the browser experience, and when it comes to the virtual keyboard, we get here Swift key and the option to swipe around 4 letters, big keys and a comfy experience. Now when it comes to the connectivity side, we get the usual package with USB Type-C here at the bottom. There's Wi-Fi A, B, G and AC. Also the phone comes in two versions, single SIM and dual SIM. We have the single SIM one with a nano SIM card slot here that's very easy to remove. It does not require a key. Simply you pull from here, the tray comes out and the phone has to be restarted, and then you place the nano SIM inside. There's LTE category 9 here, HSPA+, there's also GPS, GLONASS, NFC, Android Beam is supported, there is DLNA, Miracast, Bluetooth 4.2 and active noise cancelling with dedicated microphone. Now on the calling side of things, we get here a clearly loud experience, a bit metallic sounding to be honest, and the microphone is quite good. I like the idea of the SIM slot as I said before, and when it comes to the connectivity, we did some speed tests and let's see what came out of that. Okay, so here we go, screenshots and looking for the speed test results. Here they are, finally. So we achieved, after Wi-Fi testing, a pretty impressive 166 megapixel in download, 25 megapixel in upload, so an excellent result. That's Wi-Fi. On 4G we have 60 megapixel in download, 43 in upload. We're also doing fine here, so connectivity checks out. Now when it comes to the software side of things, we're running on, let's see, Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow with a promise to get Nougat over the following weeks, which is quite impressive. Of course, Marshmallow has applied on top of it the Xperia UI, which means colorful and abstract icons without too much gloss, and of course a slight resemblance to the interface of the PlayStation products or other Sony products. Leftmost home screen is dedicated to the Google Now and its options. We got the carousel for the multitasking. The icons are quite pretty, I have to say that. They have cool colors, that's something you have to notice here. If you pinch the screen, you'll notice the widgets. About 60% of them are stock and the rest are associated with pre-installed apps like LiveLog, Spotify and so forth. Then we have wallpapers, a bunch of themes, also looking familiar if you've seen a Sony product before. And then settings, a lot of them actually related to the home screens, auto rotation, icon size, icon packs here, names in dock, phone transitions, app recommendations, icons added to the home screen, and double tap to sleep, to name just a few. Swipe down and you're met with an option to search for applications, both on the device and online, with recommendations appearing here, all of them popular applications. The drop down section includes quick settings and notifications as usual, and the settings area doesn't have any special extra options. For example, I could not find any special gestures like waving a hand in front of the screen or doing some special things to make it start. However, we can set up the fingerprint scanner embedded in the power button, which is here, fingerprint manager, continue, set up screen lock as a backup, continue again. Okay, notifications, next, and it's time to get authenticated, but you should keep in mind not to press the screen by mistake, which is kind of hard to do while performing the setup. Almost there, and here we are. Fingerprint has been added. You can use it to automatically lock and unlock the device. There's also a smart lock option here, and keeping notifications on the lock screen is an option till you swipe to dismiss them. Okay, so let's see just how fast the locking and unlocking is. So go something like this. It's instant, and from what I've seen, you actually have to press the button. It doesn't work by simply touching it, as I'm doing right now. As you can see, just touching it doesn't work. You have to press it, but it's instant unlocking, so that's nice, and instant recognition, also pretty fast. There is also encryption on the Sony Xperia XZ, and when it comes to the pre-installed apps list, we're facing a bit of bloatware here. So aside from the apps that are pre-installed or those that you can search, I counted a total of 46 apps that's clearly bloatware. Among the most useful were got this PlayStation app here, and also the ability to control the PlayStation 4 remotely. There's the antivirus AVG here somewhere, here it is, AVG protection, augmented reality feature, Amazon shopping, life log, which basically logs your life, your hours of gaming, sleep, cycling, car driving, walking around, or PlayStationing, so to say. Movie creator, there is the Play Suite, there is also Sketch to edit photos, and then a section called What's New, which we've seen on the Xperia phones for many years now. So this is the end of the review of the Xperia XZ. Time for the pros and cons. On the pro side, obviously the unusual and interesting design, a pretty bright screen, solid performance in spite of not going all out with the latest Snapdragon and the RAM. There are a ton of audio options to play with and photo options as well. Fantastic video stabilization, and I do mean that. 5-axis stabilization is really a hit here with Steadyshot. Selfies are quite good, and the main camera triggers some quality photos with good colors and excellent clarity. The microphone also stands out, especially when filming, and stereo speakers work quite nicely, although the volume leaves a bit to be desired. Finally, the lack of a key for the SIM is an original way to dispose of the SIM and access it. Now, on the con side, those are the pros. On the con side, quite big bezels for modern standards, and aside from that, there's quite a bit of bloatware. There is an oversaturated screen here, but luckily you can correct that from the settings. The PC Mark continuous battery usage result was underwhelming, that's for sure. The volume could be higher, and I feel that the low light quality is below other flagships from this year. Nighttime videos also underwhelming, and the fact that the speakers get very muffled on a flat surface is a bummer. In the end, this remains a Sony camera phone more than a flagship, and it has an interesting design, great stabilization. It's a great concert phone and a great nature phone. If you want to take pictures and videos in the nature, this is the phone for you, and also at concerts. In the end, it feels like a real upgrade, but one rather for the Xperia Z5 than the Xperia X performance, with which it shares quite a few attributes. It beats the Nexus models from last year, it beats the flagships from last year, and it's able to fight on par with some of the flagships this year, but not all of them, and not in all the aspects. Things to remember: performance and very solid cameras, plus an original and interesting design. This is gsm.com. This has been the review of the Xperia XZ. Bye bye.